Hi, it's Nix here from Quest for a Farm, and today we are going to make some bread. So what I've got here is I have a kilogram of brown wheat flour, and to start off I need 750 mils in my mixing bowl. So that's 750 mils of flour. Then I need one 10 ml packet of dried instant yeast. So we're going to throw that in, and I need about 7 mils of salt.
Can I interrupt?
Yes,
You have an audience member.
I have an audience member. He's hoping I drop something because he knows me well enough to know that that happens. Hey, boy. Okay, then we have over here 625 milliliters of warm water. And to that, we're going to add, if I don't drop the lid, 25 mils of oil. So I'm just using a teaspoon. I cannot find any of my measuring spoons. So that's 5 teaspoons. 4 and 5. Then we are going to add, we need some sort of sugar to activate the yeast. So I'm going to add 3 teaspoons, so 15 milliliters of syrup. The recipe actually technically calls for honey, but when I looked in my cupboard this morning, I discovered that the honey is all finished. So syrup, it will have to be. Okay, so the yeast will feed on the sugars that are in the syrup. So we'll just give this a good mix. Okay, now we are going to pour this into our flour mixture, and we're going to mix this together well. So what we want to form is basically a batter that's almost got a porridge-like consistency, because we're still going to add some more flour to this and some oats. So we're not necessarily looking for a dough consistency at this stage. Just mix that in very well. Okay, we are now going to cover this and leave this for 15 minutes to do its thing. So the yeast needs to activate so that we get a nice rise on our bread. So the bread that I'm making it's a whole wheat brown bread. It's a bread that we enjoy very much here in South Africa. A lot of us refer to this as like a plaasbrood or a farm bread. So it's the type of bread that you would typically find in, I don't want to say rural households, but basically that's what I'm getting at. So it's a very popular type of bread here in South Africa, and it is delicious. It's very nice for sandwiches, and it's also very nice for pâtés and that sort of thing, because it's a very almost dense, rich brown bread. So we're going to cover this, leave it for 15 minutes, and then we'll be back to add the rest of our ingredients and knead this bread. Okay, it's been 15 minutes now, and our yeast is doing its thing. You can actually see some little bubbles in this sloppy batter, and as I'm stirring it, I can actually smell that the yeast is starting to activate. So now what we need to do is we need to add the rest of our flour. What I'm first going to add is 250 mils of crushed up oats. And I did check, this cup is exactly 250 mils. So I tend to use this because I have no idea where my measuring cup has gone, but that one works just the same. So we'll mix our oats in, and then we're going to start adding in some more of our brown wheat flour. So I'm going to add this. I feel like maybe we're not going to use all of this flour. Okay, let's just get this somewhat incorporated, and then I'm going to start kneading this bread. This bread does take quite a lot of kneading. So we'll just try and get all of that flour incorporated. If you end up with more flour than you actually need, you can add a little bit more water, or you can add a little bit more flour if the dough still feels a little bit soft. So I'm just going to go ahead and knead this, adding water and flour as I need to form a nice dough. And then I will be back. Okay, so our bread is now nicely kneaded. You can see it's not sticky and it's sort of holding this shape. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in my loaf tin. You can see I've got a huge loaf tin here, so I'm only going to use the one. So we're going to put our bread in the loaf tin. It might be even a little bit big for the bread, but the bread's still going to rise a little bit. So I'm going to cover this with a tea towel. I'm going to find a nice warm place to put it, and we are going to leave it for an hour. In the meanwhile, I'm going to start heating my oven up to 200 degrees centigrade, and I will throw this into the oven in about an hour. Then it needs to cook at 200 degrees Celsius for half an hour. Then we will reduce the temperature of the oven to 180 for another half hour, and then our bread should be ready. Okay, while we are busy baking bread, we are going to make a pumpkin bread at the same time. So I saw this recipe on YouTube. The lady actually used apple sauce or apple puree to make this bread, but we had a surplus of pumpkins, so we thought we'll give it a try with pumpkin. What could possibly go wrong? So here I have just over 3 cups of pumpkin puree. To that I'm going to add 1 cup of melted butter.
Almost melted butter.
Almost melted butter. That's pretty much melted. 1.5 cups of sugar and 4 eggs. We've also got a lot of eggs at the moment, so we decided to make a bread that uses some eggs because the boys are actually away visiting friends at the moment, so they are not eating the eggs as fast as our chickens can produce them. So these are all eggs that our chickens have produced. So we're going to mix all of this together. We also need a little bit of vanilla. Let me just add that. Oops. Okay, there's no such thing as too much vanilla, in my personal opinion. Okay, mix that all together nicely. Yeah, so we decided that since we're baking bread today, we might as well bake more than one type of bread, and we can always put it in the freezer. Bread is always something that's good to have in the house. Alright, so that's now nicely incorporated. Next thing we're going to add is 3 cups of flour, just regular all-purpose flour. That's 1, 2, and 3 cups of flour. Then we also need to add 1 tablespoon of baking soda, although here we call it bicarbonate of soda. So we'll add one, oh, I need a tablespoon. We need 1 tablespoon of this. I think this is more of a dessert spoon, but we'll add a little bit extra. What could possibly go wrong? And a tablespoon of cinnamon. Cinnamon. Just making sure.
What could you add instead of cinnamon?
You could add nutmeg, but I'd use less because I think nutmeg can be a little bit stronger than cinnamon. And I also need some salt. We also need to add about a teaspoon of salt to this mixture, and then just get it all nicely incorporated.
You just put it in.
Yes. Yeah. Just that should do it. Thanks. And mix this all together. And I've got my prepared loaf tin here. So my brown bread from a bit earlier is pretty much ready to go into the oven. Is the oven ready?
Oh, just clicked off now.
Did it just click off? Okay, so that's actually perfect timing. So this is all nicely mixed together. Alright, so you don't want, this is not the same as the other bread. Okay, this you want more of almost like a cake batter sort of consistency. So this should do it.
Oh my god, it smells so nice.
That's the cinnamon. Because who doesn't love cinnamon? Alright, now let's just pour this into another one of my giant loaf tins. I love these huge loaf tins.
Well, you've seen the size of the teenagers that live in this house.
Well, yes. But it makes life easier. Okay, so this is, and here's Chuckles trying to convince me that he eats pumpkin bread. Every time I'm in the kitchen, this cat is hanging around. Alright, so you can see that our loaf tin is it's around about half full. Alright, so let's go over to the oven. So we are going to put our, oh dear, gotta remove that. This is the difficult one. Okay, we are now at the hour mark, so let's see how our breads are doing. Oh, this one looks, so if you tap it and you hear that hollow sound, then I think that means that this one is pretty much done. Let's just check this one. Okay, I think this one can still go a little bit longer because as I wobble it, you can see here it's still slightly raw over there. So I'm going to leave this one in for another 10 minutes and then we'll come and check on it. But I think our brown bread is ready. So we're going to,
Hold on. Oh, got the light.
okay, so we're going to turn this out. Ooh,
Oh shit.
that came right out. Okay. Okay. Yeah, this one's ready. So if we tap the bottom and it sounds hollow, that means that she is ready.
Come and slice, let's see.
That's too hot. It needs to cool down a bit first. So I'm going to put it on this cooling rack. That's very hot. If we try and cut it now, it's going to like just fall apart. So we'll just put it on this cooling rack for a few minutes, about 10 minutes or so, and then when we come check that one, we'll cut a slice of this one and we can see how it looks inside. Here we are back. Our bread is all out of the oven. This one has cooled down completely, just about completely. This one is still busy cooling down. This one's just come out of the oven. This one ended up needing about just over an hour and a half altogether. I think also because I did it in such a big loaf tin, it took a bit longer to cook. But I think let's slice into them and see what they look like. You can see this is like a solid loaf of bread. The crust is quite crunchy.
Crispy, crispy.
So this is what this bread looks like.
Take it a little closer.
So that'll be very nice for sandwiches, pâtés, and that sort of thing.
Ooh, with pâtés, yes.
Let's give it a taste.
Mmm.
Mm.
You can taste the oats.
Mm. It's very nice. I always like this bread.
Yeah, that's the ticket.
But this is the one we've been waiting for.
I'm excited about that one.
Mm-hmm. This one's a lot softer.
Mm-hmm.
Oopsie.
Oops.
Oh dear. This one's coming apart slightly.
Maybe it's a bit warm still.
I think it is still a bit warm. Okay, well this one's a lot softer. You can see, I actually don't even think, I think this one can actually even go back into the oven for a bit. It's not totally cooked through at the bottom there. Alright, well we'll put this back in, let it cook all the way through, but there are our 2 breads that we made today. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.